All right. Welcome, everybody, ladies and gentlemen, to the Get Invested show today. This is one of our GK shows, and it's usually led by Brett Siffling here, our head of or director of Get Invested. Also a young prodigy stock investor that we recruited at a very young age to join our firm because he was such a talented person. He oversees our young persons investing group, which is called Get Invested. And then today we have a very special guest. I was on Twitter the other day, and this kid came across my feed, and so I looked at a couple of his YouTube videos, and I was like, oh my God, this kid is great. Not only well, look, I think we really want to encourage young people to invest, and when you're my age, as young as I am, I feel like I can only reach a certain market. So I think one of the best ways to be inspired is by having young people like Brett, and of course, he likes to call himself young investor. What are you, young investor too? But his name's really Zachary Cox. He's based out of, where are you, outside of London or something?
Yeah, like in the southwest.
Yeah, so he's doing his Brexit right now here in England, and he's 12 years old. And I think what I like the most about your videos was there's so many people on now who just want to tout stuff, like they're just touters. And there's just sort of like, oh, you should be buying options on Robinhood, on Tesla or whatever. And it's just a bunch of people are trying to figure out how to lose money, where I think your real focus was education. And when a 12-year-old can educate other people about investing, I think that's a special thing. And that's why we wanted to have you on today, because I'm a big believer that young intelligence isn't based off age. Experience is much more based off age than intelligence. And one of the reasons I've been successful as an investor over my life is by surrounding myself with young people and investing in what young people are doing. And that's kind of one of my secrets, is if I can figure out what the kids are doing, that's the future, and that's where there's opportunity. The challenge is really figuring out what the kids are doing. So there's no better way than to have Zach on today and get his thoughts on the way he sees the world. I'm sure it's different than the way I see the world. Certainly dealing with his own quarantine, and I'm sure the issues you have with school. Are you on Zoom school over there too? How's that working?
No, so we were for like around 6 months. We were on like Zoom kind of stuff, but now we're back at school.
Oh, so you're back in school. Great.
Yeah, we're back in school now here in the UK.
Great. Hopefully we'll get through this COVID crisis, and you're a young guy and you'll be able to talk about it when you're older, and hopefully it won't happen again. But these are stories you will tell people for quite some time, kind of like I tell 9/11 stories or Iraq war stories, because I'm old enough. So let's get into this, because I'm really curious. First and foremost, what got you interested in investing? Just flat out, you're 12 years old, you should be playing Minecraft. Why do you care about the stock market?
Well, before this, I was kind of a bit of a history geek. I used to love history, and I used to read about it. And you used to hear a lot of things about, how finance happened in history as well. How certain events. So, like here in the UK, we had something called the South Sea Bubble, which is basically, it was when the stock went from £100 to £1,000 and went to like £80.
So do you want to explain about the South Sea Bubble to people? Because I know we have a lot of Tesla people watching, and it's a little bit like the South Sea Bubble, right?
Yeah, so the South Sea Bubble started with a lot of hype. This was back in like the 1600s.
Right.
So a lot of hype went around. A lot of hype went around London. There was this brand new company called the South Sea Company, and they were basically doing really well in India and stuff. So a load of people brought it in, and every month the share price is going up. Yeah, and every month the share price is going up and up and up. It started at £100 and it ends up at 1,000. So that must be an astronomical amount of money back in the day. And then it crashed because they discovered there's fraud and stuff in the company. They've been manipulating figures, and the king was involved apparently. The king was the director of the company, so a whole lot of people lost all their money there.
There you go, the first bubble.
The first bubble. I used to read stuff like that, and then when you have a combination of reading about all that kind of stuff, and then you see, when you see massive advertising campaigns to start investing in the stock market and stuff. There's like, my broker did one. I decided I'd give it a go. I put in £40, and now I think my
When
portfolio is
was
something
it?
like
When was it? So when was the first time you actually invested?
the first time I invested, I'd say, is like 5 to 6 months ago.
Okay, so you just started investing, and you just
Yeah, just
chose the
started.
bottom of the market from the COVID bear, huh?
Yeah. No,
What was
Look,
I
your
look at
still
you!
like.
Look at you! You and Dave Portnoy outperforming everybody with the 6 month, 6 month track record. So you finally got enough, or you must have had to have your parents help you open an account, right?
Yeah, so my parents had to put in their information for the account, and then I put all my own money into there, which I'd saved up over the years.
You
Yeah.
saved it up from doing chores and your allowance and stuff.
Yeah, chores, allowances. I
Cool.
mean, I wasn't really interested. I wasn't really interested for a long time in like loads of stuff. So I just, if I went on holidays,
Yeah,
stuff
a
like
long
you
time.
do.
Remember, you had to learn how to like walk and read and all that stuff first before you invested, and you pretty much hit the youngest age you could possibly start investing, right?
Yeah. So
What
So,
was your first
I,
investment?
so your parents open the account, you put in your
yeah.
money, and now it's an online account, I assume. And did you just basically, just start placing trades? Was your goal to trade, or was it really more you had some investments that you thought would be great ideas and you wanted to just invest in them?
Yeah. So living in the UK, I started investing in the UK stock market, but in the UK stock market, you don't have anything exciting. You don't have the EV companies. You don't have
No.
you don't have the mega high growth companies, and it was just it's just pretty boring. You didn't find anything really interesting. All you had was a little banks and food companies. So
We agree.
I started investing in the US stock market. I think I was buying. I originally, so I was still learning how to invest. I think I bought something like Berkshire Hathaway.
Was
Sold
that
that
your first
after
stock? Was that your first stock?
first US stock. I think it was Berkshire
Was
Hathaway. 'Cause I didn't know
Berkshire
how to
Hathaway?
invest. I just heard that Warren Buffett was a famous investor, and I thought, oh, I might as well just put money in Berkshire Hathaway. I started to,
So the
I thought,
youngest investor in the world chose the oldest investor in the world to start with,
yeah,
huh?
Yeah, do
Yeah,
you
I
think
like
yeah.
that.
Warren
So
still got it?
no, I sold it like 3 weeks after and started investing in. Yeah, I was just thinking. I
Classic
was looking
Gen
for a
Z.
portfolio one time, and it was just food companies. So I sold out and I started investing in growth companies, and yeah, so that's so
Wait. So
from
hold on. So after how many weeks? So you had Berkshire Hathaway for a few weeks, and then you realized value investing was dead. A lot quicker than Einhorn and a lot of these other guys, huh? So in 3 weeks, the 12-year-old prodigy, granted, realized that value investing was dead. And so then what did you do? You sold your Berkshire.
I sold my Berkshire and I started buying growth companies.
Like,
I think I brought some. Yeah, I brought Neo at $16,
now
and
why
I
Neo?
saw.
You literally went from one of the safer, more conservative stocks you could own to the most risky, right? Like a Chinese EV tech player,
Yeah, so I think when you look at Neo and Tesla, so Tesla, people always say it's like a automotive company. All they do is sell cars. Tesla's more of a technology company. You've got you've got their solar coming out in the next few years and whatever they're bringing. I think when you look at Neo as a brand, it's more of a lifestyle company. You've got the Neo house, you've got the whole Neo experience, and when you drive in the big cities, there's always the Neo going down the road. It seems to be a lot more of a brand. You get free courses at the house. Free place to work. If you have a business meeting, that's free to have it there when you own a Neo car. So I think it's all revolved around the car for Neo, but you've got so much more than just a car when you buy a Neo. I thought the story was really interesting about how it started. I didn't. I think I brought around 16, and I probably made the biggest mistake ever. I sold it at like 18,
No.
and now it's at like, yeah,
No
no,
one
yeah, and
ever
I
went
just brought
broke
back in.
taking profit, Zach.
Yeah, and I was just
That was a
waiting for the
$2
next pullback
profit,
and
though. That's it.
I know,
Hey,
I
it's a
lost it. I
start.
lost it. Yeah. Oh, I was, yeah. So I just started going up
So,
and
so,
up and
so have
up.
you started your list of things not to do again? Because like I started when I was like 13, and I have like this list of mistakes I've made throughout my life, which is really long, when it comes to investing. And really smart investors just don't do that again, but we all make these mistakes.
Yeah. And
So did you buy it back, or
so
you just sold it and you're done?
I brought it back yesterday. I just saw it. Yeah, I saw it.
Yesterday.
Yeah, I
So
brought it back yesterday. I
Oh,
saw it.
wow.
Every day I was watching Neo Car and tours and stuff like that, and I saw it going up and up and up. I kept waiting for the pullback, and I thought it's not going to happen. Then we had this new Chinese bill coming through, which some people thought it would ban them. It wouldn't. It would just mean that you need to
Well,
disclose more
it could be bad
information.
for Neo. It could be bad for Neo. It
Yeah,
depends
yeah,
how their financials are. And that's really my issue with companies like Neo is more, I don't trust what numbers they put on the piece of paper per se. And we have to trust these pieces of paper. And if you've ever seen a Chinese company get audited, you would be nervous. You know what I mean? But, then again, we deal with different amounts of money and it's your money versus like I manage other people's money. So if I lose a lot of money, like on a bad company fraud or something, it makes me look real bad, like I haven't done my research. So that's why companies like Neo are higher risk in my mind. Not that they're a good or bad investment. And I don't know if Neo is doing anything wrong, but it's just so hard to tell. And that I think is what makes me nervous about Neo.
Especially with stuff like Luckin Coffee, it does make you a bit.
Totally.
It does make you a bit. Yeah, with Luckin and all that, it does make you slightly concerned with it. I think with Neo as a brand, you see, I think one of the main risks for me is not necessarily fraud. It's more of the state-owned factory. So the CCP, they own the factory, and Neo, ideally, to expand and grow bigger and bigger and bigger, needs to get out of that factory. They want to do it by 2024. I don't know if they're actually going to be able to, cut the strings with the Chinese government in the factory if they're actually going to build their own. So I think that's one of the main risks. I mean,
well, also, I think it's going to be really tough for these companies to scale battery because there's only so many battery cells you can make right now. And so many of the companies have focused on trying to build cars, but they haven't focused on adding battery capacity. And so we just think a lot of these companies will run into capacity constraint just from a battery perspective, because unlike Tesla, they haven't innovated anything with the battery.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So I think the thing with Neo is it's not going to be. I mean, Tesla's. I think it's always going to be bigger than Neo. Some people hail Neo as a Tesla killer. They're nowhere near to that. I mean,
I agree.
Tesla. Yeah, I think give it 5 years, 6 years. Tesla's going to be the biggest auto company in the world. I mean, there were some people on CNBC the other day making a fuss that GM was investing $88 billion to beat Tesla. Why are they only investing $88 billion? I mean, a few years ago, I think Volkswagen said they were going to go fully electric, but I don't think the CEO realised that their third biggest shareholder, Volkswagen, was an oil tycoon.
No, he knows.
Subsequently, the CEO got fired, and Volkswagen decided not to do that. So I think, I mean, 88 billion, whatever. That's not going to be enough to beat Tesla. I mean, the GM Hummer, there was a huge fuss made about that. Looks great till you realise that the some part of the car and the graphics are made by the designer of Fortnite. So it's like it's like maybe that's what the partnership with Nikola was for, to help develop their EV Hummer. But I don't know. But it's
but I think you're bringing up a very good point, which is that none of these players are committed to success with the EV market, which only gives Tesla a bigger advantage, because we've been saying a long time, they've been just trying to placate the market with some product, but they haven't actually built a business around EVs like we're seeing with like Rivian or Lucid, which are EV only car companies, where I think there's a lot more potential for those companies longer term, which is the advantage to Chinese companies like Neo or Polestar, which is really the old Volvo, which is owned by China, Geely. So we've invested also in BYD through ETF called LIT. The symbol LIT, it's lithium and battery technology ETF. And one of the top holdings is BYD and Tesla. But we really like these Chinese players, and I think your head is in the right spot. I don't know if Neo at this valuation makes any sense, but certainly.
Zachary, are there any other EV players that you like besides Neo?
Yeah, so maybe it was a mistake. I'll probably buy back in like next week. I saw Tesla 3 weeks ago to buy. I saw these EV stocks. They started to go on the uptrend, and I was thinking, I've been analysing one stock for a long time. It's called Arcimoto. It's quite an unusual company. It's kind of a freewheel electric vehicle.
Which company is this?
Arcimoto, ticker symbol FUD.
Yeah, Arcimoto. You gave me that stock. I hadn't heard of it, so I pulled it up, and I was like, "Wow, this is kind of an interesting."
It looks fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell
It's
us
literally
about
called
I was
Arcimoto. I mean,
utility vehicle.
yeah, like I hadn't even seen of this thing. And is that Golly? That
That's
was
golly.
Golly.
Yeah, that's
Is it-
Garley. Garley's an
Yeah.
investor. He was investing since $1. He's buying big up $1. Now they're 14. He was on the conference call the other day asking
Golly is another one of these child prodigy genius kids. Like I met him a couple years ago, and we're good friends now. And I don't even do research on Tesla much anymore because I just like Galley does it already. So if I really need a breakdown, there's a couple guys who do so much work on Tesla. I don't just waste the time to come up with the same numbers. Galley's one of those guys. And another. I mean, maybe we should have had him on a show, but he has his own podcast, so he's really into his own thing.
I watched it.
Yeah, no, he's great. I watch it too, and it's Hyperchange TV. So if you do want great Tesla information, I think he's a great source. So tell me more about Arcimoto.
So I saw really the main opportunity, not in the necessary consumer product. I saw it more in the kind of the Liberator side of it.
Yeah, totally.
The Deliverator was their version of for delivering. I was thinking when you look at something like that with Domino's or some massive delivering chain, I saw really there being quite big opportunity in that, and I was thinking you've got a stock here worth $150 million. And I'd assume
Are they selling the product? Is the product for sale?
Yeah. So at the moment, the product is for sale for $20,000, a very steep price. But then, if you know Sandy Monroe, they signed a partnership 3 months ago. He's going to help them scale up to over 50,000 vehicles a year, which would equate to around $700 million in revenue. The stock right now, after a run up of over 150%, is a valuation of $450 million. So once they be able to scale up to 50,000 vehicles, that's a Deliverator, their emergency services one, you'll be able to get to the point where you can buy this for $10,000. I mean, when you look at when a massive chain like Domino's or just a small local one, I think the Arcimoto, Deliverator, and the whole concept of the vehicle, especially if you're selling to consumer in the southern states, in Florida and that kind of area where it's nice and hot. You don't get loads and loads of rain all the time. I think it's absolutely perfect for that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I was gonna say, but they make them in Oregon, right? And isn't it pretty cold where they make them to have these, 3-wheeled, open door, little golf cart things almost?
It is cold.
So yeah, Oregon is apparently a bit cold, but when
can we put the Arcimoto video again so we can see what these things look like? There we go.
Yeah, they look pretty sweet.
So there's no roof. There's no roof.
There's no roof. There's not much
there
protection.
There is a roof. Yeah, so there is a roof.
Oh yeah, yeah. But see, like I think this solves one of the biggest issues that I have with the delivery future that we are in, which is like the environment. Because everybody who's delivering your food right now or packages is using a gas-powered car, and it's like super bad. It's like super bad for the environment. And then I saw these guys trying to deliver stuff with drones the other day, and I thought it was really dumb because they were like using the drone and it was like fiddling around just to try to deliver something, where you could have a little car like this that probably would cost nothing to operate and just get through traffic and boom, 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 deliver.
Well, I saw in some of their media that they would have like they're trying to shrink the ultimate size of the car. So we could even have, 2 of these side by side in one lane. And, here in LA, that could make a huge difference with traffic too.
Totally. There's no traffic anymore, unfortunately, since COVID, but yeah.
The FUV, which they call it, that's basically you need most states, you need a motorbike qualification for that. That means you can overtake. When you can get a motorbike qualification, that also means you can now overtake cars to get to your delivery time a lot quicker than the other ones. I think for me, I took it was the biggest bet I'd ever taken on the stock, and I thought, look, I'm 12. What have I got to lose? I've got this stock which can make me 10x in 4 years. Money in the next 4 months. Money in the next 4 months when we scale up to 50,000 vehicles. I put 25% in the portfolio in it. Bing bang! Next week it went up 120%. So I was really lucky on that.
Nice. Nice. So you said you started with like 40 pounds. You said
40 pounds. I put more and more money into it. I invested.
So what? Now you have 3 million pounds.
Yeah, no, it's 10 million. No, I've invested. Yeah, I think I made something like 60% so far, so it's been doing
60%
pretty
in
well.
6 months. So that's nice.
Well done.
Yeah, thank you. So
Well,
yes,
we've talked about a few lessons though. Let's start off with some lessons learned that you've brought up, because I think this is why a lot of people want to pay attention to these shows, not just for stock picks, because this is a great idea, by the way. And if I make money off of it, I promise I will buy you an Xbox. And I'm getting the Xbox X. Some kid sending me one, so I'm excited. I have an extra Xbox.
Lucky.
No, wasn't lucky. Some kid offered. It's like I'm famous enough now that somebody was like sent me this. I was like, wow, thanks. I need an Xbox, because I was bitching on Twitter I can't get one. I'd like to play you tonight, by the way, Brett. And so lesson number 1, selling too quickly. Okay. Selling too quickly. Lesson number 1, when you make an investment and it's working for you, why would you sell it? Well, you're like, oh, I've made some money, I should sell it. One way you can protect against that is sort of like a mental stop loss order, or a real stop loss order, where you say to yourself, you bought it at 16, let's say now it's at 18. Okay. If I put a stop loss order in at 16, or I just decide if it goes below 16, I'm going to sell it, so I won't lose money. But there's no, what's the incentive to sell it? You see what I'm saying? It could keep running just like your Neo did. And so one lesson I've learned is making absolute decisions. Like, I'm going to sell all my stock. You're out. So maybe if you're made a little quick money, take a little bit off, but then you want to keep some of it back in. Even on stocks like where I've made good money and I sell most of it, a lot of times I still keep some, just because it could still keep going higher, so on and so forth. So making absolute decisions, investing, it's like market timing in a way. It could work, but it also could not work. And in your case, like in this example, it cost you a lot of return that you could have made on your idea. So if the idea is still good, you got to be able to sit through the volatility up and down so that you can take advantage of it. And the second lesson is dollar cost averaging, which is by buying little bits at a time. It's, once again, you're not making this absolute decision. I bought it at 16, I sold it at 18. It's like I bought a little here, I bought more. So if you're buying as your position's working, and it's sort of like the way you bet is just as important as the idea. So you want to double up on your winners, not sell them. On the other hand, you want to sell your losers quick. So that's the second lesson. And you did that perfectly with your Berkshire Hathaway. Berkshire Hathaway hasn't really been performing. You realized that this was not where you were going to make money after a few weeks when the markets were moving, and it wasn't. So you moved on quickly.
It sat there at the exact same price. That goes going down like
right.
a week.
But see, the smart thing,
not fluid stock at all.
But the smart thing was that you sold it, and that you realized that it wasn't working for you. Sell your losers quickly. It's the most important lesson I have learned in investing, that sell your losers quickly. I can't tell you how important that is as an investor. So let's back up a little bit.
I would add a third lesson on there too, actually, though, Ross. So, Zach, you talked a lot about this bull case, right? Like in, FUV, the fund utility vehicle. But I challenge you to actually, look at the bear case too, and why all these reasons why this company might not work out. Like, for example, with that company, they have a huge cash burn and they don't have a lot of cash in the bank. So you could be buying into something where they might dilute shareholders, right? And they might raise a bunch of money on you.
They do dilute. Yeah, the other day.
Did they? Nice. So so
the other day, so the stock price went up 120% in a week, and they made an agreement with a private institutional investor. They were going to buy $50 million of stock at around, I think it's something like $15. I think stocks are like 12 now. It's quite an enthusiastic institution. Yeah, quite enthusiastic one. So I think the whole mentality in that was, they're not just going to sell this onto the market. So you're not going to have loads of new stock getting traded every day through hands. That's what they've been doing most of the time. I mean, before we had all the EV stocks run up, this stock had a warning on its balance sheet saying it's going to go bust in 6 months. They don't have any cash. They burnt through. They went public so early. They went public in 2017 when we didn't even have the current product we had. They were still experimenting. They went public at $6. We had run down to 64 cents. We've gone all the way up as we've now got an actual product. We've got a partnership with Sandy Monroe for 50,000 vehicles a year. It's all starting to kind of come together. But I think really a main risk of Arcimoto is it's not going to sell. There's that real risk with, especially that kind of product. It's
well, the price
you know,
point, the price point is high. They'll have to get the price point down.
Yeah.
This is awesome.
Yeah, so that's the whole idea. Yeah, from 20,000 to 10,000, getting that price point down and hopefully getting it lower to 8,000 at some point.
But that's a scale thing. That's a scale thing.
Yeah, and so at the moment they're producing 2 vehicles a day. When we get to that 50,000 partnership, we're producing like 10, 12.
Which is also just a study being done too, right? It's not necessarily like they can even make it happen.
Point is really valid in that, like, one, I think the smartest thing an investor can do is look at the best case against your stock. And we did that, like when Tesla was down and we were kind of eating crow, I spent a lot of time looking at what the bears were saying and really analyzing it. And I sort of came to the conclusion that a lot of them were biased based off their dislike to Elon, and it was coloring their viewpoint on the industry and the company. And when I realized that so many of the bears were colored with their emotions, that was a huge advantage being a bull, because and so I went up to the factory, and that's when I met the team and saw everything. And that's when I was convinced that they were wrong, because they actually hadn't been to the factory. That was my first question. I said, any of these short sellers actually come here?
Yeah.
And they're like, no. And I was
like,
like, so they're betting. Right, they're betting all this money against Tesla, and none of them even came. And they were so excited I came, and I was like, well, I'm coming. And like, they were sort of like a hated company back then, and so I went, and they gave me a full tour and showed me everything, and very open, which, like, I wonder if NIO would do that, like if I flew to China, would NIO let me talk to all their executives, walk through the factory, talk to random employees? I bet you there is no chance that would happen.
Zero.
Yeah. But looking at the bear case, I think, has a lot of value, as far as like a lesson, especially in, highly valued, I would say, speculative growth stocks where the opportunity is huge, but the risk is also large. And so how do I mitigate risk? And it's certainly good to know what those risks are really, really well. Now I want to take a step back here for a minute and go back to, where are you getting your information from? Where do you learn so much? I mean, some kids your age, I think video games are probably the most. We're big investors in the video game industry, and I'm sure you play Fortnite and stuff like that too, like everybody. Instead of playing Fortnite, you're reading like financial reports and stuff. So where are you getting your information, and what's your inspiration?
Yeah, so originally at the start I was like just watching YouTube videos and stuff. I still watch a few, but I'm not really too bothered about YouTube videos anymore, as in just watching them. If it is a stock I've never heard of, and it's from YouTube, I might watch it, then do a bit of research if I think it's interesting.
So a lot of it started on YouTube.
Yeah, so it started on YouTube, but now it's kind of transitioned into more. If I find a new kind of growth stock, whatever, I'll read what they're making, what they're losing, financials and stuff. I mean, the other day, like,
which websites do you like to use? Which websites do you like to use?
Yes, I use stuff like Seeking Alpha.
Yeah, see, I use Seeking Alpha too.
Yeah, and Seeking Alpha and some. It's mainly Seeking Alpha, and if I'm looking for an individual stuff, I just type it up and see what everyone's saying on that one stock, and then I might watch a few CEO interviews, see how he's coming across.
Have you watched any traditional financial media? Do you watch any of the shows?
Yes, it is. So in the UK, it's pretty hard to. There's no really business channels, so I think CNBC shut down.
There's no business channels. I'm on the BBC.
Yeah, no, there is BBC Business, but when
I'm on it. I mean, come on. I just did Reuters. You have Reuters in England. I'm on there.
No, I do watch that, but I think the thing with my dad, he has this thing, so I watch CNBC down his house sometimes. So I quite like.
He has
CNBC,
this thing. You mean like a satellite?
Yeah, he has like a satellite. So you get.
Do either of your parents work in the securities industry or in banking?
No, none of them do. My dad's a chef.
So your dad's a chef. So instead of cooking, my dad's a dentist. I didn't want to be a dentist, so as a kid, I actually learned from my grandfather. There was no YouTube back then. My grandfather was an investor, and he would like sit at his desk working, and I was like wondering what he was doing as a kid, and he would show me He's like, these are stocks. Don't go in this drawer because this is where I keep all my information. So of course that was the drawer I was fascinated with. And I would go through this drawer and he would show me like the stock certificates, because back then you would have your own stock certificates. And then he would show me the checks he would get in the mail for dividends. Now I thought this was amazing that you could have somebody just send you money every quarter for doing nothing. And I was like, I got to learn this, like it's a lot better than, my dad, who's a dentist, right? It's like, I didn't want to be a dentist. So I wanted to learn about stocks and be like my grandfather. And that was, but it was really hard to get information. Like I used to read like this, what was it? Value lines. Like I would have to go to the library and get these things when I was a kid. So that's what I used to do to get information. So I think for young people today, it's so awesome that you're able to get access to information so easily, with the downside being there's so much garbage out there you have to sift through. Where do you get your information, Brett? Brett, where did you, when you started investing, where did you get your information from?
It was a lot of the same places on Seeking Alpha and different mentors that I had found on Twitter, actually, that have just shown me what to do, and basically mostly company financials. Seeking Alpha was a huge part when I was starting to kind of getting that bull and bear case from a very easy point of view. And then also I just liked following stocks. So like I would just follow them for long periods of times, ones that I was interested in, and kind of learn the story that way.
Yeah, I mean, I owned like Apple and Disney, like when I was a kid. And so like, it was real tangible to me because I used the products too and everything. So like, I think that was an element of it for me, which was like, I would like walk around and see things and be like, wow, this is doing really well. I should invest in this, like, so it made sense to me to own Disneyland. It made sense for me to own, at the time, it was like an Apple Mac, was coming out and all that stuff. And it just made sense.
Zach, do you trade from your phone or do you trade from your computer?
Can you hear Zach? I don't know. Maybe he's frozen.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, your connection was just cracking up then.
Oh, I said,
when
you invest, you invest. Go ahead.
Yes. So I mostly, I just use my phone for the investing and all that kind of stuff.
Pure mobile.
Yes, I think that's super interesting in a way, because like so many people on Twitter who are like the new traders have set up like 17 screens, and they're, their whole like trading setup to track multiple indexes, whatever. But I actually think the future is people trading on their phone, and you don't really need all these screens, to be honest. I don't want to burst anything.
That's what I used to do in high school, is a straight iPhone with one of those extended batteries that would plug in.
Well, you got screens now, buddy. You got a bunch of screens now.
What broker do you use?
Yeah, so in the UK, we were originally Robinhood was going to launch, but they decided not to because they wanted to focus more on the US side. So I basically use the UK version of Robinhood, which is trading 2-on-2. You might have the occasional problem, because they had such an influx of customers, like you've seen in the US with companies like Robinhood. There's more and more people in the UK who are investing now. There's a lot
of people building these apps like Robinhood in foreign countries.
Yeah, so,
like I did some stuff with that.
Yeah, so in the UK, like,
I mean, we're going to hopefully be launching in the UK we're getting feedback here. We're hopefully going to be launching in the UK next year, early next year. So hopefully when you get older, maybe you'll run it for us. Seriously. So going back to your process, okay? So where's your idea generation come from? Do you wake up in the morning and you're like, instead of dreaming about like elephants and traveling, you're like, oh, like the Queen's Gambit. I saw Neo in my roof, when I went to bed. Like where do you see the future? What drives your inspiration?
Yeah, so it's funny. I did have a dream about stocks the other day.
Let's see. I knew it.
There it is.
He's a Queen's Gambit, one of these kids. He's dreaming about pawns and rooks.
Yeah, I did have a dream the other day, and when I was watching one of the charts on the stock market, the stock went up 1,000% and earned the second, which I earned.
I had a dream and it came true.
Yeah.
My dream came true this year.
Yeah. So Yeah, I mean, it's definitely kind of crazy year in like stock market investing, but when inspiration and stuff. Sometimes I was in Bristol the other day on holiday, and even if you just see something on the news or whatever, and in the UK stock market we haven't recovered from the crash, so we're still in a crash situation. I'm only UK stock for a long time, but one of them, Primark, which it's pretty cheap, kind of one of the big consumer clothes shops, really cheap. Maybe not the best quality of clothes, but really popular. And while you see all the rest of the shops in the high street are empty, that one's got a queue of 200 people lining right around the block,
Right.
just trying to get in. Yeah, trying to get to a shop like that.
We call it boots on the ground. We call it boots on the ground research. We do that all day long.
Yeah. So the other day I was thinking about buying the first UK stock I was going to buy in a long time. I went in the store and I was thinking, we're allowed back out. This is before the second lockdown here in the UK. And I was out, and I was thinking, look, you've got so many people out there, and no one's in here. And I didn't buy the stock just because of that. I mean, Beyond the Meat, for example. Some people say, why don't you buy Beyond Meat?
I like that. Beyond the Meat is better than Beyond Meat. It's
yeah. I mean,
I don't eat that stuff. Do you eat that stuff? I don't think British people eat fake meat, right?
No, we really don't. But I tried one once, and all it tasted was corn. It maybe wasn't cooked in the best way, but
it's gross. No, dude, it's gross. I tried it.
I will never ever. After that, I will not buy Beyond Meat stock just because that thing tasted corn. I was thinking, you're claiming the worst thing is you're not saying this is going to be it. You're claiming this is going to taste like meat.
I agree, man. I agree. I'm with you. I'm with you.
Yeah. Wait, why do you like Tattooed Chef then?
Yes, yeah. Well, Tattooed Chef's different because they're not marketing themselves as a meat alternative. They're saying, it's unlike you buying your ready-made meal, which is really unhealthy on the supermarket, buy a Tattooed Chef one, which is basically a ready-made meal. It's way healthier, and you just quickly put in the oven and then it's made.
So it's like a healthy meal versus like I'm replacing meat.
It's still it's plant.
This was my thing with Beyond Meat. I agree with you 100%. Which is like my wife is very healthy and cooks very healthy and she wouldn't eat the Beyond Meat because she doesn't really want the taste of meat. She doesn't like meat. She'll have vegetables. She doesn't need fake meat. I really saw that as a way to convince people like at the fast food places maybe to eat healthier. But I'm not convinced that it's even healthier, to be honest. So
it looks like they put the exact same stuff in, just no meat, and they dump an extra load of flavoring.
Yeah, I'm a big believer. Eat vegetables if you're going to try to be healthy. Just eat vegetables. Yeah. Like it's. I mean, we can go into health all day. Speaking of which, I know you have a bedtime. Do you actually have a bedtime, or do your parents just let you go to bed when you're ready?
No, I go to bed from now. It's probably like an hour and a half. Just
Yeah, because I don't want to get in trouble with your parents. Keep you up.
Or your teacher.
I thought we started with enough time, but you're well ahead of us time wise. So being in England, so it is later in the evening there. So thank you for doing this, and I'm sure your parents are super proud of you in the sense of it takes a lot of guts to go out and be in the media and do shows with crazy people like me and go out on Twitter and put out your ideas. And as I was saying earlier, there's a lot of haters out there, a lot of
facing that criticism,
and you're a young guy and it can be daunting, and it takes a certain type of individual to put themselves out there. And I give you a lot of credit for that. I have a lot of respect for that. And I know, especially the bullying, I'm a victim of it often, but it doesn't bother me because I don't care. But when you're 12, it's different, so I just want to say I think you're a great kid and doing a great thing, putting yourself out there, not to mention the lessons you're going to learn and the doors that you can open for yourself in your life. It's really a cool thing. I think the thing that fascinates me the most is your level of understanding complex concepts at such a young age. And I have smart kids, but you're doing pretty good, and So let me get something out of you. You're in England. Brexit is going on right now. It seems like the disaster that will never end. What happens to England moving forward? How do you see your future being British?
Tough question. I would say going forward, I think the problem with England and well, that might be deficit when you get out of all this. I think England's debt surpassed $2 trillion. We're at probably 2.1 now, and we're spending more and more money. Eventually down the line, you're gonna have to cope with that. I find it. Yeah, I mean, with Brexit and all that, it's like there's good and bad, isn't it? You've got your goods, you've got your bads.
I get that, but
I think,
what do you feel? Like, do you feel as a 12-year-old kid that you're going to be better off in 5 or 10 years because of Brexit?
don't really know, to be honest. I think you got to see how it pans out. You've got promises from both sides of the aisles. I mean,
Right.
you've got one side with the Leavers saying, but it's all going to be better after. We're going to have more, and then you've got Remainers saying we've got to remain and all that. And then you have, people who switch sides all the time. You don't really. I think you've just got to see how it pans out in 5 years, and if it's good, great. If it's not, you got to live with it, and you got to adapt to that. But
right. But I mean, I'm just saying, from your opinion, it's just too tough to call like whether this is a great idea or not. I mean, I kind of think it's dumb personally, but it's mostly because I think there's a lot of benefits to the EU if everybody worked together. But England wasn't fully in already because it already had its own currency. So, like, I don't know. I think I feel the same way you do. I think nobody really knows, right?
It's hard, yeah.
Yeah.
But part of me wanted me to invest in England. Like, part of me thinks like maybe England's a value right now. And then part of me thinks it's a dying empire that's been dying for 200 years and it's only going to get worse.
Yeah, I think especially in the English stock market, I've been doing a lot more research into it recently. And if you can pick some of those value plays out, right now, look at what their growth was before the pandemic. I think in general, you see some areas in the UK which have been doing dreadfully under the EU, and with maybe might do better out, or might just do worse, or just stay the same. But I think with the UK stock market in general, I think there's opportunity to be made out in the UK stock market. I'm not a massive value investor, but when you've got a stock market which hasn't recovered from a pandemic, we have obviously had a jump because of the vaccine news, but when you look at a market which is still in that situation where after coronavirus, there's so many solid companies out there. If you pick the ones which are really popular and still down right now, I don't think there's a chance you can really lose.
From in England.
Yeah, I
was thinking like real estate, like real estate in England is down. Office buildings are down. All these big companies have pulled out, moved to Paris or Germany or whatever. And I think there's opportunity. I'm just not convinced that this is just the long, slow decline of the British Empire. I'm not convinced that this isn't just another bad decision. That I was hoping maybe you'd convince me more, but it seems like people in England aren't sure how this is going to be.
Yeah, well, it feels like down here and stuff, we're very much, I'd say we're quite, down here in North, I think the whole area in North England and down in the Southwest, a lot of people don't think of the Southwest, but in some of the areas in the Southwest especially, it's pretty pro-Leave because in the sense, we haven't got anything under Brexit, under the EU in the sense, you've had your ifs and buts. That hasn't really made the sense. I mean, I think some of the stuff which bothers people is that you've got all the you don't control your own, you don't control how many people come into your country, you can't regulate anything, and then because I think what annoys me, I think is a fair point in the sense that you see like these undercover investigations, and you have some of these illegal immigrants that are getting housed in a hotel in trashing towns, small little villages which they're getting housed in, and then you've got war veterans on the streets. That might be the UK government's fault, but when you've got, I think that's kind of what made people feel quite angry about all of it. But then, especially in like the London area, the more industrialised area, the feeling was, we're part of the EU. The city's very much part of the EU.
I think you kind of nailed it on the head.
Yeah. So there's that feeling in the city that they love the EU, but I think in certain areas of the stock market, sound like if you look at the
Well,
most
look, you
modern
take it. You take control of your destiny, and you're not dealing with stupid EU things, which is clearly hurting the EU. I think you've hit the complexity of the issue on the head, and so there's a benefit to England big time, or at least the perception within England, and there's going to be a cost too, and it's whether those things reconcile themselves to be a net positive, and maybe it does turn out to be a net positive, I think. But let's move forward. What about America? We just went through the Trump era. It was the worst era in American history as far as for human rights and I would say for civility and for what we stand for as a country. So it's been a really devastating time in America, even though markets have mostly gone higher. Now Joe Biden has won. How do you see this working out? We've got 3,000 people dying a day. We actually have no coronavirus-like policy at all here in this country. How do you see the U.S. markets going forward for 2021?
2021, I think the whole stock market is gonna. I think the really interesting about Biden is if you're in the oil industry, if you're owning some of the oil giants like Chevron and all that, it is not going to turn out too good for you.
No,
the oil companies and all those kind of companies, they're going to continue to slip into 2021. No one's really interested. But then you have anything really EV, clean energy related. I think it's going to carry on going back up in 2021. More benefits rolling out to encourage more people to go EV and clean the future. So I think there's really going to be two sides of the market. It's going to be like maybe like the middle line where the boring companies stay in the middle,
right.
Don't really do anything. Maybe like AT&T and stuff like that. Then you've got Chevron and all the oil giants.
Probably one
then
of
you've
the
got Chevron.
ever.
Maybe Berkshire Hathaway could be classed as a very boring company.
You know what? We actually are looking at Berkshire Hathaway because, people don't live forever. And we kind of think that, if they broke up, Berkshire Hathaway, it's probably worth a lot more broken up than together.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I think, I do have a problem with Berkshire Hathaway in the sense that Warren Buffett 10 years ago was a great investor, but I kind of see what he's doing now. And some people were saying to me the other day, they were like, "Oh, so I took profit on one stock. I didn't sell the whole position. Actually, I sold 60% of it because I was 120% in 2 weeks. I thought I'll sell 60%, keep the rest. Goes up, goes down.
There you go.
Goes down, I might buy back. Yeah, might buy back in. But people saying, "Oh, you're more of a trader," and I said, "So is Warren Buffett a trader when he sells his Costco stock? Is he sold the whole of his Costco stock the other day? They're 40x multiple, but maybe that's more expensive." And the thing with Warren Buffett is I don't know. It's got, if you ask Warren Buffett he said he never invests in EV, and he never invests in Tesla and stuff. Then he's gonna good old General Motors. Which is best than
portfolio sucks. I mean, his portfolio sucks. You can say it. It sucks. It's garbage. And then the best investment, like he wouldn't invest in technology. And then finally, I think those young guys convinced him to buy Apple. So he piles into Apple, makes the most money he's ever made. And now Berkshire Hathaway is basically 25% Apple.
Yeah, I think it might actually be 40%. Something like
I
that.
know, seriously. You might be right.
Yeah,
but like when I think about, I think you're 100% right. My stepfather's a real smart guy, and he's in his 80s. And I think older people, they obviously, depending on your life and your brain and your genetics, you change as you get into your 90s. I mean, to think, I don't think there's any chance I'll be as sharp as I am today when I'm 90. I just don't think so. That's kind of why I have Brett and you on the line now, because the way I look at it is I already rely on young people, not only for ideas and helping me. I just don't know how he does it with so many old people around him, and not surrounding himself with young. He does have two guys, that do stuff for him. But like at our team, I'm like the second oldest person in the company. I think I hired somebody just so I wouldn't be the oldest person. And thank God for Greg. But like, I love having young people around me because I feel like from an idea generation standpoint, if I'm investing in the future, like how does a 90-year-old have a vision of the future? You know what I mean? It's like you have a vision of the past, very clear, but a vision of the future. When you're 12, your past was like diapers and stuff. You know what I mean? And so like all you have is a vision of the future. And that's what I think why it's so interesting, not only talk to you and get your viewpoints, because they're very similar to mine, which I believe clean energy is going to be one of the greatest themes of the next decade. And it's not by choice. It's because of climate. And you think about even the weather today in LA is like the middle of October and it's like December, and I'm like, okay, we have Santa Ana winds today and high temperatures in December. Like it's
we're approaching Christmas.
Oh, I know. It's going to be like Hawaii.
It's snowing, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't know. So climate. So we all agree here that climate is going to be a driver of technology and investment opportunities into 2021 and beyond. What other themes motivate you? Because I know we talked a lot about clean energy today, and I think you're right on, and I'm with you with all that. But it's not the only thing we're investing. We're investing in a couple other themes. One theme I'm not going to bring up because you're too young, and then the other theme. And then the other theme, we think video games are the new social media. We're very heavily invested in gaming. We love the gaming industry. We think gaming is replacing a lot of other activities, including physical sports. And kids live on these games now, but it's like social media. I log on, I want to play with Brett at night, and it's like that's what I want to do. What do you think?
So I think, so seeing next opportunities, so it's actually the thing which you would have mentioned. I think I own one of those stocks. I only own one, and that's one I've been investing in recently. It's more. I think it's probably only.
You're talking about the stocks that are too advanced or not advanced that you shouldn't be talking about with a 12-year-old.
Yeah. Basically, that.
So you do own one though.
I own one of them, and that is Grow Generation. It's the biggest hydroponics retailer in the whole United States.
Now, did you explain this investment premise to your parents?
yeah, I did actually say it to them, and one was like, "It's all right."
I got to meet your parents. We got to get your parents on the show, the next show.
Yeah, we have. Yeah, but seriously. I think have you ever heard of Grow Generation?
Have I heard of them? No. Have you?
So they're the biggest hydroponics retailer in the whole country. They supply everything you need for be able to.
Right. It's kind of like SMG.
You get everything you need in that store. You have not got much competition in this space. You buy up the largest competitor, which has 5 stores the other day. 5 stores, that's nothing. You're at 35, 40, 50 stores, whatever it is now. You've got loads of cash on hand. You're ready to go in and buy buildings like that as they're showing on the screen. Which maybe aren't in the best state, and then they transform it into a new store. They're constantly buying competitors. When you look at something like Seeking Alpha, it's just Grow Generation requires 4 more stores. Grow Generation requires 6 more stores. Grow Generation requires 2 more stores. They're constantly acquiring more and more and more stores. And then they smash like the last sales figures by like 30%. It's something crazy. Are
they domestic US or are they global?
Domestic US, yeah. They're in the US only. And I think they do represent a real opportunity, especially as more and more.
So this is in your portfolio currency. Like, do you mind telling us what's in your portfolio currently? So
in my portfolio, I've got like stuff like Arcimoto tattoo shop and some of the smaller positions. I've got my one dividend stock I've got, and it's Store Capital, only because I see some opportunity in mainly the growth side of it.
Well, I'm glad you have one dividend stock. I'm glad to hear that.
So something to provide. It's like Store Capital, unlike the other renters like Seven Capital and Simon Property Group and that kind of stuff. If you've got Home Depot in your mall, Home Depot isn't going to tell you how much money they're making in that store, so you've got no idea. You maybe have a very rough estimate, but Home Depot aren't going to tell you how much they're making in that store. You can't price the rent accordingly to how much. When you're offering a chain of 5 stores, another location, they've got some, when you look into it, they've got a, solid kind of balance sheet. Then you're thinking, hang on here, there's an opportunity here. And that's really what I like about Store Capital.
Store Capital.
Yeah, Store Capital.
So how many stocks do you have in your portfolio?
11.
11. Okay, that's good. That's a good amount. And I think that's a good place to start. I think you should have at least 10 stocks in a portfolio in my mind, and in sort of a maximum of 20 to 25. But once you get past that, I think you're either over diversified or too concentrated. So if you have less than 10 stocks, you're kind of concentrated. If you have if you have more than 25 stocks, you're all over the place, you know. So you're kind of right in the sweet spot. And obviously, when you're 12, investing for growth obviously makes sense. You're not an income investor at this point, and really, you know, when you think about time horizons, in a way, because you're smart, it's almost like weird to think like in 20 years, you know, you're still like really young, right? But like a lot of your investment premises can really play out over these periods of time. And that's sort of the secret to how I built, you know, my wealth, was because I've always invested since I was your age. And I just kept adding to what I was doing on my job. And, you know, when I played in my band in college, I would save and invest that money, and it just kept doing it. And I built that up to a few $1,000 when I graduated college. And then I ended up doing this for a living because I was trying to be in the music business, but I thought it ended up being horrible business to be in. So I decided to stick with investing. And it happened to be 1994, which was the beginning of the greatest bull market of all time. And, you know, it was a wonderful time to start my career. Going to Brett real quickly. If as the middle-aged person here, you know, in your early 20s, or 25, so mid 20s, what advice would you give Zachary to help him be a better investor?
Yeah, so I'd say the number one thing looking back is not getting caught with the trying to make a quick buck or whatever, or chasing stocks, right? So pick, like you said, like a handful of companies. Like I like that 10, 11, you know, stocks, and stick with them, because what you're going to learn is trading and day trading and short-term trading is very, very difficult. But if you pick really solid companies over the long-term 5-10 year time horizon, you can make much more wealth, like real wealth, versus trying to make a quick buck day to day. So I think, you know, if I were to go back to when I started when I was 14 years old, and I would have just picked a handful of stocks instead of doing all of the trading that I've done over the years, a lot of times the returns from actually just investing and sitting on your hands is a lot more.
You know, that's great advice, Brett. And it reminds me very much, because when I started at 13, you couldn't trade. There was no way. So I had to like convince my mom's Smith Barney guy to like buy 4 shares of Apple or whatever, you know what I mean? And so it was like, there was no online, there was no like trading when you had like a small amount of money, you know, so that wasn't even an option. And then in the early 90s, I was one of the first people to ever place an online trade, and Charles Schwab started online trading. And I had a laptop. I was the only one in my firm. I actually worked in a company that had no computers when I started, and I had a laptop and I started trading. But I learned those lessons really early on by tracking every trade. I used to track every trade that I made and every stock that I would own. And I would do this on a piece of paper because we didn't have really good computers back then with really good software that could do this. And I would write these things down in this thing called the Stock Traders Almanac. I don't know if you've ever seen this thing, Zach. It's called the Stock Traders Almanac. It's a book. It's a physical book, but it's an amazing book of statistics and information about stocks. And so I would use this book to track my stocks and so on and so forth. But one of the lessons that I think that if anybody learns from this conversation is so important is the more I trade, the less returns I make. So the more trades I place per year, the lower the returns I make are. So I think about every trade before I make it, because in a great year, I shouldn't have to do that many trades. Okay. So like the idea is you're buying a good stock, you never have to sell it. That's the ideal, you know, but all these people who, especially now, pitching that they're making money, pitching that trading is the way to go. It is not. It is definitely
and
not.
All of a sudden they have a subscription site that you have to sign up for $19.99.
I know. Well, see, I was
it's a shame really with it. Yeah, it's a shame really with this, because then you have all it's always got the scammers on YouTube. Yeah, right. I'm not here to tell you that you're gonna get rich quick and get $1 million in 5 days, but you can make $1,000 for 5 hours work a week. Sign up to the link in the description.
Well, the easy money.
Yeah, I was walking the other day to school, and I've never ever seen one of these boxes before, and I saw a Herbalife box. So I was thinking, I'm sure you've heard of Herbalife. I was thinking, oh no, those people have probably lost a whole lot of money buying those products.
Yeah. I like Herbalife products, right? I mean, they've been around. Um, I think this get rich quick thing that people think the stock market is the way to get rich quick is really almost sad because
It's a terrible idea. It's a terrible
not,
idea.
especially when you can get rich slowly. So like patience is kind of important, but like if I said to you, I know that you can be a millionaire in 20 years if you do this, but you have to wait 20 years. Okay. If you're 12, you're like, who cares? I'm 32. I'm a multimillionaire. That sounds good to me. Right. But if you're 50, it doesn't sound as good. And I think that's the problem. Everybody wants everything now. I want to, if I can make some great trades, I can then, buy this watch or go on this trip or buy my wife something. And it just doesn't work that way. And that's not really the purpose. You're building wealth, you're making the investments, you're building your overall financial plan over time. And you can start that at any age, 12, 25, 50. You can try it at any age, start building your wealth. This is a great time to do it. But certainly there's no advantage in trying to outsmart the stock market. Now, I learned that lesson in 99. I went to the stock exchange for the first time. I went to the New York Stock Exchange. And I'll tell you, Zachary, I was like you and Brett. And when I got to the mecca of stock trading, I was like, wow, in heaven. So I got to spend a day with a floor trader back in the days when they actually had floor traders and real specialists, like Trading Places, the movie. Now, I don't know if you've ever seen this movie. It's really funny, Eddie Murphy movie, or Wall Street, the movie. If you watch Wall Street, the movie, you can see how the old exchange used to work with telephones and everything. So I spent a day, and that was the day I realized that people who traded against the people on the New York Stock Exchange were losers, that they were going to lose because the people on the exchanges were way smarter, had better information. They were way more experienced than the people sitting in their laptops in their houses playing on Robinhood or whatever. They have no chance against the guys at the New York Stock Exchange. And that's when I was like, okay, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not trying to trade and outsmart everybody. I'm going to focus on making good investments. And of course, that was 99, the top of the market. It was the day the AOL Time Warner merger was completed. And it turned out I was there, like at the top of the market. And I think it took like 15 or 20 years to get back there on the NASDAQ. But anyways, why don't you tell us what your YouTube page is? So if you want to follow Zach, follow his videos. I highly recommend it. What's your YouTube page, Zachary?
So my YouTube page is Young Investor. I do actually have a custom URL now. So if you just type up just like youtube.com/Young Investor, you should be taken to my page.
Young Investor. So there you go. YouTube/Young Investor. I think it's a great source. If you have young children, get them on this page. I'm going to try to shove my kids onto this page off of Unspeakable today. And I don't know if that's going to work, but they get angry when I try this. But I'll say, hey, look, this kid's just a little bit older than you, Max. My kids
also follow our own social media as well. Hit subscribe to the YouTube channel if you guys are looking at it right now. We obviously do a ton of these great shows, whether it's on a ton of different topics like mindset of a champion, if you're charitably inclined, to young investors like this, great ideas of the future. So we're pushing out content every single week like this.
Absolutely. Go to our YouTube page at Gerber Kawasaki. You can follow us on Twitter at Gerber Kawasaki. Most importantly, you can become a client at Gerber Kawasaki. We have no minimums. We want to work with you. Even if you're 12, that's fine too. Our Get Invested program is specifically meant to help people build wealth. We're one of the only firms that actually cares about helping people build wealth versus just managing wealth after you have it. So let us help you. I think there's nothing more important than getting started young, saving and investing your money in an intelligent manner. Zach, thank you so much for spending the time with us. You're kind of a wonder. So please wear a helmet. Please wear a helmet when you're riding your bike or skateboard. Keep up the good work. Obviously, we'll keep in touch, and we're going to do this again. I love your ideas today. Great ideas for us to look at. We just finished our investment meeting before this, and I couldn't get any of these guys to spit out anything half as good as you. So thank you. I got some reading to do today because I'm going to look at some of these companies. And I think what you can learn also from this show is it's you never know where you can learn. And I think if we prejudge everything based off age. I was a young kid, and a lot of people wouldn't listen to me when I was a young kid, and I think that's a mistake. And that's why I like to bring this out. You're a talented kid, love it. Your parents should be proud of you. You're a hardworking kid, so stay out of trouble. Don't use all the products that you invest in.
I won't, don't worry.
You know what I mean? You know, you're still a little young for all that stuff, but you know, you're a very mature, intelligent person, and I wish you luck too. You're entering a very difficult stage of life, which is called a teenager. So if you need any advice, we're here. We've done it. We did teens. We made it, but it's a tough time, you know. So hopefully England and you guys will get through your COVID and be safe. And thank you again for being on the show.
Yep.
Thank you.
See you, Zach.
Yeah.
See you.
So thank you, everybody. Have a great afternoon and or evening in England.